Hey, Intro to Accounting, Mr. Roberts here, and today what we're going to look at is Lesson 5.2, Bank Reconciliation. And we have two learning objectives here, and the first one is complete a bank statement reconciliation, and the other is record and journalize a bank service charge. And we are still going to be using our deposit slips here. It's going to be kind of related to Lesson 5.1. So let's kind of move forward here, and the first thing that we're going to look at is a bank statement. And you can see here that this bank statement, let me just move this over a little bit, that this bank statement is a report of deposits, withdrawals, and bank balances sent to a depositor by a bank. So that's what a bank statement is. And what I was seeing where people have a little bit of some mix-up is what are deposits and what are withdrawals. So a deposit is when we're putting money into the account, right? And we are a depositor, okay? So if we have an account, we are a depositor. We are the person that puts money in there. So a deposit is when we put money in. If you got paid, that would be a deposit because we're taking that money and we're putting it into the bank. A withdrawal is when we take money out. Now, if it's our bank statement, withdrawals are any time that we actually write a check, and deposits are any time that we take a check that was written to us and deposit it in. And when it comes to the bank reconciliation, we're really going to need to understand that so we can go in and reconcile or kind of make right our two accounts, which is the bank actual statement that the bank's going to send us, and then our checkbook. Those are the two things that we're reconciling, and we need to make them even. So we have some terms that kind of pop in here. The first one's really funny, okay? It says when a bank receives a check, the amount of each check is deducted from the depositor's account. Okay, that makes sense, right? And they kind of worded it a little bit funny, but if we wrote a check, gave it to somebody else, they would go into their bank, cash it, and when this is talking about it, it pretty much says like when the bank receives a check, which is just permission that you can take money out of your account, what they do is they say that that check's been paid to the bank and it becomes a canceled check. Now, that sounds like a void check, right? It sounds like where we put that big void on there and then we couldn't cash it or nobody else could cash it, but this is different. This is when the bank actually paid out that full check. So let's say that I write out a check to you right now. I give it to you. You go bring it to your bank, and my bank pays that on behalf of me, right? They say, okay, yep, Mr. Roberts gave us permission. Now we're going to allow this check to be cashed and give it and be actually cashed to you, that individual that's depositing in their account. Well, now that check is considered a canceled check because it cannot pass to any more people, right? I wrote it, I gave it to you, it's been cashed or deposited, and now it's done, so it's considered a canceled check. A little bit of a weird word, right? When we kind of call it that, but that is what it is called. Okay, so if we look at this, it says the bank stamps that check to indicate that the check is canceled and cannot be transferred any further. Canceled checks may be returned to a depositor with a bank statement or may be kept on the record by the bank. So if you get this bank statement here, what they're saying is all those checks that are canceled could actually come with it. That doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of people don't receive bank statements, or if they do, it's electronic. But if you see here, it says account service charges are also going to be listed on a bank statement. And that's going to be the big thing that we need to reconcile here is a service charge from the bank. That's going to be one of the big ones, okay? So here it says, although banks seldom make mistakes, occasionally a check or deposit might be recorded in a wrong account. That could happen. Banks have made mistakes in the past. And it's not like, where you're at the grocery store and they put up the wrong price and you go, ooh, the price said this, I'm getting it for it no matter what. No, the bank might make a mistake, but they're going to fix it. And then if they give you an additional $10,000 and you go out and spend it, you're going to have to pay it back, okay? They might make mistakes, but if there is an error, you notify them and they will correct it right away. But here it says, however, a bank's records and a depositor's records, your checkbook may differ for multiple different reasons. These four things, if you can understand them, you can do this unit, Okay, let's look at what they are. The first one, a service charge may not have been recorded in the depositor's business records. When they say depositor, they're talking about you, okay? So we have the depositor's records, which is the checkbook. That's what we'll call it here, our checkbook. And then we have the bank statement. So what this means is the bank might charge you a service charge. And if the bank charges you a service charge, is it going to show up on the bank statement? Well, yeah, they're the one that's charged you. It's definitely going to show up there. But what about on your paperwork? Is it going to be there? Maybe not, right? It might not be there because you haven't gotten your bank statement yet. So if you haven't gotten the bank statement, you probably haven't seen that charge. So that's one of the reasons that your bank statement balance might be different than your actual checking account balance. Number 2, outstanding deposits may be recorded in the depositor's records, but not on a bank statement. So outstanding deposits, okay? So here, what that's saying is outstanding deposits is when we take, let's say, $2,000 that we've had in sales of cash, right? And we're going to go deposit that in the bank. Well, we go and we deposit it in the bank, and we automatically write it down that it went in the bank, right? But the bank statement might have a little period of time where that has to clear. So you might have deposited it in the bank, you were recorded on your checking account, but the bank has not yet processed it yet. That is number 2. The second reason. Number 3 is outstanding checks may be recorded in the depositor's records, but not on a bank statement. So, what does that actually mean? Outstanding checks may be recorded in the depositor's records, but not on a bank statement. Okay? Let's see how we can kind of think about this. So, what could happen is we could actually write checks. We could write checks to people that we owe money to, okay? And how quickly do we record that on our records? Very quickly, right? We just had that in 5-1. We fill out our deposit slip, right? Or excuse me, our perforated edge that's right next to the check. And in there, we record that we wrote out that check and we calculate out the new balance. We do it immediately. But how quickly does the person you're writing the check to actually take it to the bank? That would be an outstanding check, okay? So that might not show up on our bank statement yet because the person we wrote the check to, it's got to go in the mail or whatever else it gets to them, and maybe it sits on their desk for a week. Well, that's not going to show up on your bank statement, but it will show up in your depositor records / checking account. And then number 4 says a depositor may have made a math or recording errors. Yeah, that might happen as well. We might have screwed something up, and that's on us, but we can always fix any issues that we have, okay? So those are the 4 reasons. When we understand those, we really can understand this unit. So here's this bank statement reconciliation, and it looks a little bit different than the one that we're going to be doing. Okay, but the concepts are all the same. And it says a bank statement is reconciled by verifying the information on a bank statement and a checkbook or an agreement. Reconciling immediately is an important aspect of cash control. We want to know how much cash we have, and that's referring to what's in our bank and what we have recorded in our bank statement and in our checkbook. Why is it important that we reconcile immediately? Well, how many other transactions are you going to do after you get your bank statement? If you get your bank statement and then you wait 3 days and you go ahead and you do a bunch more cash transactions, it's going to be really hard to reconcile. We want to reconcile right away when we get that bank statement. So it says Delgado Web Service canceled checks are kept on record at the bank. The bank statement is used to determine the canceled checks. For each canceled check listed on the bank statement, a check mark is placed on the corresponding check stub. Check stub with no check mark indicates an outstanding check. Outstanding checks are those checks issued by the depositor but not yet reported on a bank statement. Outstanding deposits are those deposits made at a bank but not yet shown on a bank statement. All things that we just talked about. Okay, all things on those 4 little things. So you can go back and forth here and look at these. I'm just going to run through it, okay? The first thing we do, though, is write the date of when we are actually write the date on when the reconciliation is being prepared, okay? Now, number 2 is we're going to put in the check stub balance. So here, this is what's in our check stub, that balance that's brought forward. After that, we're going to write down any service charges that we might have had and that we might have missed, because this is one of the reasons that our bank statement and our checkbook's not reconciled, is a service charge. So maybe we have a monthly service charge. We don't record it in our depositor records yet, okay, in our checkbook, but now during the reconciliation, we're going to put this in here. So we have a service charge, $25 for allowing us to do business at the bank. So here we write our total bank charges. Maybe there's more than one. And what would we do with this? Okay, we have a balance on the check stub of $26.22, and then the total bank charges is $25. Is a charge going to deposit money into our account or withdraw money into our account? It's going to withdraw money. It's going to take that money out of it, is how I would kind of look at it. So we take $26.22, we minus the $25, and our adjusted check stub balance is $2,597. Okay, so that's number 4. And if you look at this bank statement reconciliation, what I would do is draw a line right down the middle. Okay, because the left-hand side is really for our is for our checkbook, and the right-hand side is really for our bank statement. Okay, so it's kind of split in half. At the end, the numbers need to match up. So let's look at the bank statement. What's the balance on there? Well, it's $3,292. Now look at this. If we looked at the check stub balance and the bank statement balance, they're off by a good amount, right? They shouldn't be. That's why we're reconciling them. That's the whole goal of this unit. So once we write down the bank statement balance, what do we do next? Well, we're going to put in outstanding deposits. Deposits is when we're putting money into our account. So that means that we went to the bank or whatever else. We've recorded that we're depositing that money, but maybe the bank hasn't processed it yet. So we add in those outstanding deposits. Here, we only have one outstanding deposit on 131. It's $685. So we take our bank statement balance, and then we have outstanding deposits. Do we add that or subtract it? Well, we add it because it's the deposit, right? That's money that's going to be going into our account. The bank just hasn't processed it yet. So we take the bank statement balance of $3,292 and we add the outstanding deposit of $685 to get a subtotal of $3,977. But there's one more step here. The next step is to look at any outstanding checks that we have written, sent out, that other people have not deposited yet. Okay? So these are called outstanding checks. We look and we write down all the outstanding checks that we have. So here it's 11, 12, and 13. We can go to our bank statement, right? We can go to our bank statement. This is kind of a funny one. But we can look at all the checks that are actually written here, okay? And I don't know if this will coincide. Oh, it will, right? So this bank statement, you look at the check numbers here, okay? You can see all these check numbers, and they're listed in, we go through 1 through 10, right? Because each check number has a number. Well, if we go over here, you can see that we actually wrote out check number 11, 12, and 13, but they're not on the bank statement. So we need to write in all of our outstanding checks. And these checks have given permission to other people to take money out of our account. So when we add them all up and we total them up, is that going to be a plus or a minus? It's going to be a minus. We need to take out that balance of outstanding checks. So here we take our subtotal of $3,977, we subtract the outstanding checks of $1,380, and then what we're going to do is we have an adjusted bank balance now of $2,597. Our control, what we check is, does the adjusted check stub balance match the adjusted bank balance? Do they? Yes, they do. $2,597, and we are good to move on. All right, there we go, right? That is our bank statement reconciliation. Kind of skip past that. So there's a couple other things that we do here, but it's all connected, right? We did that important thing, that bank statement reconciliation. Now that we actually have this bank service charge and we reconciled it, nothing's actually occurred in our checkbook yet, right? Like we didn't write anything in our checkbook. So now to fully reconcile our checkbook, we need to actually record this service charge that we had. So how do we do that? Well, we go to the check stub, which we used in 5.1, and you can see here that check number 14 hasn't actually been written yet, okay? That's fine. We're actually going to leave this blank because there's no check being written. So right now, we don't have to write anything in there. But we do need to have the correct balance down here. So what do we have? We have the balance brought forward, which is, what, 2,622. And when you look at that, your inclination, what you're going to maybe do is take this adjusted check stub balance and plug it in right here. But that is not what we are doing. Why are we not doing that? Because we are doing the adjustment right now, right here, okay? We're actually calculating it out. So we have 2,622. That's our balance that we had on our check stub. And then we're going to record the service charge right here of $25. We put in the amount, the total amount that we have written here of our kind of other things that we have, which is service charge. And what do? Just like we did before, we subtract that $25 to have the new subtotal of 2,597. All right. So some of you will have this inclination to put 2,597 up here, that already adjusted balance, and then you'll do another service charge, and then this subtotal will be wrong. Okay. You don't want to do that. All right. You're just recording that adjustment that you already made. And then after that, you don't have to write the amount on this check or the balance carried forward. Why? Because we haven't written check number 14 yet. We're not there yet, right? We're just recording this service charge. And there's one more additional step. It's not that one. It's right here. Once we do this and we update our checking account, the next thing that we're going to do is we have to actually journalize this bank service charge, right? So now we go into our general journal and we're going to record a miscellaneous expense. It was a supplies expense or something like that? I think it was. Yeah. Oh, it was a service charge. Well, we don't have a service charge account, so we're going to record it under miscellaneous expense because there's probably not that many service charges, or we just don't think it's a big enough account to have on its own. We'll put it into miscellaneous expense. And then you're doing the same thing that you've always done for journalizing. You put the date of the 31st when that reconciliation took place. So, or the date that the bank has charged us. Then we write miscellaneous expense because we are recording this miscellaneous expense. An expense has a normal debit balance. We need to debit it to increase that expense. Then we're going to write the credit account because it's coming out of cash. And you might be looking at it going, well, we didn't pay cash for it technically. It came out of our bank account. But remember, anytime we're referring to what's in our bank account, we're always saying cash. So you have cash here. It's going to be credited because it's going to go down. And then what's the source document? M3, okay? And that's going to be our memo number 3. All right. Trying to see, is there anything else? I don't think so. All right. And there we go. That's 5.2. So let's jump into the work together and on your own. Ooh, that's fast. Ooh, that's fast. Okay. Let me just add this little calculator here. Move us over. All right, let's do that. Oh, almost there. We're almost there. Okay, here we go. So now we have some of the information that we need. Let's do a bank reconciliation form together. So here we are. And first thing we're going to need to do, just pull this up. First thing that we're going to need to do is read the problem, okay? We have bank statement information. This is where we're going to be pulling a lot of stuff from, okay, in that bank statement reconciliation. So we're going to pull a lot of information out there. So we can see our bank statement balance, our bank service charge that we were actually charged with, our outstanding deposit for August 28th, outstanding checks, and they're all listed and numbered, and then a checkbook balance on the check stub. So this is the balance that's being brought forward in our check stub. This is going to give us all the information that we need on top of this little word problem. So it says, on August 29th of the current year, Bright and White Laundry received a bank statement dated August 28th. Information has been obtained from the bank statement and from the records of the business. Prepare a bank statement reconciliation. Use August 29th of the current year as the date. So when we look at this bank statement reconciliation, the first thing that we're going to do is put in the date. And, we received this on August 28th. We reconcile it on the 29th. We're trying to do it as quick as we can. So the next thing that we're going to have here is let's put in the balance that's actually on the check stub. And if we look at this, we do have this line that's kind of going down the middle, like an actual line here. And the left side is for everything that's on the check stub. The right side is for everything that's on the bank statement. At the end, the adjusted check stub balance must match the adjusted bank balance. So if we look at the balance on the check stub, you can see checkbook balance on check stub number 309. So let's put 309, and the amount is $2,822. Type that in wrong. And now we're going to deduct the bank charges. These are the service charges. So the bank's going to charge us $20. So let's put in service charge, and the amount was $20. We can see that here. It says bank service charge. So what's the total bank charges here? Well, that's pretty easy. It's just $20. And now we have an adjusted check stub balance. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to take the amount that was carried forward minus the charges, because the charges are going to cost us money, right? So let's go like that. 2,802. Okay. So this is our new check stub balance. Not too complicated. Next, let's look at the balance on the bank statement. Bank statement balance is $2,712. Let's add any outstanding deposits. So it looks like we have an outstanding deposit from August 28th. I think this is going to be 8. Yeah, it is. 28. What's the amount? $300. So what's the outstanding deposits? If we had more than one here, we'd add them all up. But we only have one, so it's pretty easy, 300. And this is an outstanding deposit, money that we've already tried to put into our account. It's just processing. So when we look at this, I'll just bring it up, even though I think we can do that math, but 2,712 plus 300 is 3,012. Okay, so this is our new subtotal. What do we have next? Well, we have our check numbers, and we're going to list these in order, but we have check number 306 and 308. So these are outstanding checks. So let's put 306 and 308 and put in the amounts, 140 and 70. Then we add those two up to get our new outstanding checks, $210. When we look at this, we have our subtotal, and then we have our outstanding checks at $210. So the checks we've already written, given out to people so they can cash them or deposit them. That is money that we've already technically written off of our records. So we need to subtract that amount. 3,012 minus 210 to get 2,802. There we are. Now, does our adjusted check stub balance match our adjusted bank balance? Yes, it does. That's the control that we're looking at. We need to make sure those numbers match. So next, it says record the service charge on check stub 309. Record the service charge on journal page 16. Use memo number 77 as the source document. So it's giving us a bunch more information that we're going to need here. Okay, and we're looking at this check stub. Let's just see here. record the service charge on check stub number 309. So here's check stub number 309. We are not actually writing check number 309, right? We don't have to do that. But what we do need is to look at this balance that's being brought forward on the bottom. So there's nothing that we actually have to put in the top. But if we look at the balance that's brought forward, here we go. This is tricky, right? Because a lot of times you might be tempted to put this new check stub balance in this section here, but you do not. You put the original check stub balance, 2,822. Why do you do that? Well, because we're about to record this in here, okay? We're about to record it, and if we put the new adjusted check stub balance, what we're going to do is we're going to really record a service charge, or we're going to bring this old account and we're going to subtract $40 from it instead of $20, and that number is going to be wrong. So was there any money that we have here that's being deposited? No, at this time, no, it is not. So we'll just bring down this total, and then we have other here. And what goes here? Well, this is going to be where we write in our service charge, okay? And we're going to put it in just like it did on the memo, where we actually put the dollar amount in there as well. So service charge $20. Then we'll write in 20 because it's going to be $20. What's the subtotal? Well, now our subtotal is this. It should be our new adjusted check stub balance. So we take 2,822, we minus that 20 again, and we get 2,802. Now, that's it. We stop right there. Why? Because we don't know how much check number 309 is going to be written out for. We can't actually calculate that balance brought forward because we don't have any of the deposit or the amount on this check information. So there we go. Our new balance that's on this check stub is 2,802. The same as here. We're good to go. We're going to leave it. Last thing we need to do is record the service charge on journal page 16. Use memo number 77. So when we look at this, let's just look at this service charge. And we are going to record it as August 29th. When we actually had our reconciliation of our bank statements. Just want to look at this real quick. It doesn't give a date for anything else. So we're going to use August 29th. And we do need an account title here. Remember, we're journalizing, so we always need an account title here. Don't get this confused with posting to the ledger, because remember when we post to the ledger, that at that time, it'll say item and we don't put anything in here. But here we do, okay? And this is going to be a miscellaneous expense, right? Because we don't have a service charge account in our chart of accounts if we go up here, right? They don't have that. So it's going to be miscellaneous because it's just too small of a charge. And when we look at here, what's the doc? Well, we can do that after. But this is going to be debited. We already know how expenses are increased, and it's just $20. Down on the bottom here, how do we pay that? Well, we paid it with cash, and cash has a normal debit balance. We'll credit it to bring down cash. Then our document number is that memo number 77, okay? So there we go. That's all the steps that we have. We filled out the reconciliation of this bank statement. We made sure that the adjusted check stub balance and the adjusted bank balance match. We went down here to our check stub and kind of recorded that service charge on our check stub here. And now when we go ahead and write check number 309, this is going to be correct. And we also journalized this miscellaneous expense on the date that we had this reconciliation. So let's save and continue. And we'll save and continue here as well so we can grade it. And there we are. We got a 7 out of 7 on the work together that we were doing here. Looks like it gives you some points on the other one for free. But here on the work together, we had 7 out of 7. A lot of steps. You kind of have to think through it as you're going through. But kind of practice makes perfect on something like this. Just need to think through each step, and then it eventually becomes normal. So make sure that you do the on your own and the application problem. If you have any questions, let me know.